Welcome to the Same Day Podcast, where we discuss driving incremental business growth and other topics related to real estate, property management, and entrepreneurship. Now to the show at hand.
Matt Zalk here. I'm the host of the Same Day Podcast, where I connect with top business experts and real estate leaders. Past guests that I've hosted on the show include Michael Bosch of Atento Capital, talking about seed stage companies and the growth of new businesses in the Tulsa, Oklahoma region. Brooke Reuter talking about lease to own versus contract for deed properties. Today's episode is brought to you by Keyrenter Property Management. At Keyrenter Property Management, we are a full-service property management company helping our clients buy, renovate, and operate real estate assets. We help our clients build wealth while taking the headache out of property management. That is why no matter what rental you have, single-family homes, condos, townhomes, we have the management solutions you need. Go to KeyrenterPMC.com or email us at info@KeyrenterPMC.com. Today's guest is Nate Brim. He is an EOS implementer. That's Entrepreneurial Operating System. Nate is passionate about helping others live their ideal lives. He's a business owner, entrepreneur, team coach, and EOS implementer. As I said, he graduated from OU with a bachelor's of business information in management information systems. That's a BBI and maybe a BBA. BBA in MIS. And he's got a master's degree in accounting. Nate is the father to 2 children and the husband to 1 wife. Happy to have him on. Nate Brim, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thanks.
I should start every episode like that. Just screaming into the microphone. Wouldn't that be great?
The new intro. I like it.
The new intro. Let's start with the basics. How did you get involved in EOS implementation? How did you get involved in EOS, maybe even before implementation? Tell us a little bit about you and your story.
Yeah. So EOS, maybe starting a little bit higher level than that. EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. So it is a system with a bunch of simple tools to help with vision, alignment of vision, getting everybody on the same page, executing with accountability and discipline, with traction, and then a healthy piece of making sure that leadership teams operate as a happy, healthy team, because a lot of times leadership teams do not behave nicely and get along like they should. So really do those 3 things. So vision, traction, and healthy as far as EOS goes. So I'll answer your question now. You asked a different question, but
you're like a politician.
Hey, I'll take it. So my journey into EOS and how I got involved in EOS implementation is really by accident. So I was implementing EOS in my business. We hired a professional EOS implementer to help us in our business. Got into it, loved the model, loved the system, realized that I was the bottleneck in a lot of areas. So getting myself out of those areas, delegating a lot of my tasks, figuring out what my unique ability was. And a lot of what I liked doing was working with my leadership team and, working at the higher level and making them a healthy team and working at the leadership team level. And then as I was exiting out of my family business, as business partners with my brother, so the family business, I was exiting out of there, and one of my buddies called me. He's like, "Hey, you're running EOS in your business. I want you to come help me and run it in my business." And I'm like, "I don't do that. That's not what I do. I have my own business. I'm good." He's like, "Just come teach us." So I spent half a day with him and taught him everything I knew. And at the end, I'm like, I'd be more than happy to introduce you to a professional that can help you, or you can go do it on yourself or by yourself. And he was like, "Nope, I'm hiring you. I want you to do it." I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So anyway, I started helping him kind of on the side and helping him implement EOS. And then a few weeks later, somebody calls like, "Hey, you're doing this for Clay. I want you to do it for me." I'm like, "I don't know what Clay is telling you, but that's not what I do." So after 3 or 4 of those and helping 3 or 4 leadership teams, I guess that's what I did. So I kind of had to fall into it as I was exiting my business. And really, I love everything there is to do with EOS and love that. So now I get to do it with multiple teams rather than just my one team in my prior business.
It sounds, I was like, it's reminiscent of some story that I can't quite put my hands or my head around or my fingers or whatever it is. It's like somebody's handing you a pile of gold and you're like, all I can do is extract the insignificant, non-important, valueless components from this gold, but I don't do anything with the gold. And like, no, I need you to take all this gold and I need you to extract the gold. And you're like, no, all I need is the like little bits of like impurities in there, and I'm going to harvest all of it, and it's going to be worth something. It's like, no, just take the gold. Just take the gold.
Yeah, there's an analogy there somewhere, but
Yeah,
I think you and your company were like the fourth one on that list. So after that time, I started doing it full time. So
yeah, I love that. So I mean, in its essence, EOS helps founders of companies, heads of companies. Generally, we talk about it in terms of visionaries and implementers. Visionaries and
integrators. Yeah,
integrators. Love that. Robert Davis, my integrator, is a wonderful, wonderful integrator to our business. Visionaries and integrators that are helping cascade down vision, mission, and then just getting on the same page in terms of our 10-year goal, our 1-year goal, or sorry, 3-year goal, 1-year goal, and then quarterly rocks so that we can actually start executing towards that thing. So getting everybody aligned on the same page, rowing in the same direction, so to speak, and making sure that people have, as you call it, traction, healthiness, health in the leadership team, et cetera, and making sure that the organization is going where you want it to go. We used you to implement EOS in our business. I cannot imagine having done that. I mean, I'm a big fan of outsourcing in general in my life. I don't mow my own lawn because I don't have a lawnmower and keep up the blades, and put oil and gas and blah, blah, blah. I'd rather have somebody else do that. Likewise, I don't do what you do. And I'm happy that I have somebody like you that can come in and has a sharpened toolkit that can kind of lead us through the exercise, and then we can run with it. But without using Keyrenter as an example, because I know we are the shining beacon of your experience in EOS implementation, let's use somebody else. What is a good success story that you've had recently from an organization that was maybe a little bit scattered, going different directions, and then found through the EOS process that they had some clarity in their vision and kind of objectives and goals going forward?
Oh, that's a good question. There's so many different examples. I'll use an example of a client that I met with last week. They've been a client for a few years, and it was also a family business. So it was father and son, and they've been around for 40 years. If you go back a few years ago, when we started working with them, it was the son was taking over the business, and in the 100% capacity, and the second in charge basically said, "I'll never work for the son. I work for the dad. When the son takes over, I'm out. Like I refuse to work for the son." And long story short, we came in, we started implementing EOS. We put a really good structure in place. We defined roles and responsibilities. She had a really unique ability to be that integrator. So it's kind of the second in command in the EOS model, and the one who filters all the visionary ideas and really is the one who runs the organization. So she agreed reluctantly at first to take over that integrator role for the son, and they are the gold standard of clients now. Like they are crushing it. They're really operating at a high level. Again, met with them last week. Last year, again, 40-year business. Last year, they broke their revenue record by 40% or so. Like it was a huge win for them. This year, they set their annual goals, well above that record, and are very likely going to hit that goal again this year. So just the growth of revenue, the growth of people and team health, like they couldn't have done it without structure, roles, responsibilities, and really developing those unique abilities within the organization.
And what are the top characteristics in the relationship that you see between a really successful visionary and integrator?
Yeah, and there's not a personality profile per se for visionary and integrator. It's really a puzzle piece. So those puzzle pieces have to fit together. So every visionary is different. They may have a few items that are consistent between visionaries, that they normally look high level, and they're big picture thinkers, and they have lots of ideas. Like I say they come to every meeting with 20 different ideas, and one of them is usually good, but that's beside the point. It's like they're the big picture thinkers, and then the integrator is the one who has to filter all those ideas and take all those 20 ideas, figure out which one idea is pretty good, and implement that idea into the business. And those other 19 ideas live with the visionary. Otherwise, what happens if you get a visionary really in the integrator seat and running the business, all 20 of those things start getting implemented. And then everybody's running in 20 different directions, and it's not very efficient and it doesn't work very well. So it's really a puzzle piece between visionary and integrator. The integrator fits the role that the visionary is not good at, and vice versa. Usually visionary is high level, integrator is more on the doing and execution side and running the business and getting in the weeds and making decisions, which the visionary is not normally good at. So it's really a puzzle piece between the two.
There's no individual profile, DISC or Myers-Briggs or anything else that would indicate that one of those types is bound to be successful. But is there a way to define the magic of EOS, why it's so successful and why it's so effective?
I'm going to maybe take one step. I'm good at not answering your question directly. I'm learning right now. But so there isn't a personality profile like DISC or Myers-Briggs or Colby or anything like that. But there is in the Rockefield book, which is part of the traction library, there is a visionary and integrator test, so you can go see which one you fit more of. So if you're more of a visionary or more of an integrator, and kind of see where you fit on that scale. So not to plug any EOS tools or anything, but there is a profile that you can take to see which side of that scale you're on, visionary integrator side of things.
But wait, hold on. Two things. One, a lot of the EOS tools are free, so even if you plug them, it's like they're accessible to everybody, right? I mean,
Rockefield University has a free module. There is some paid content and things you can do there, but there's a lot of free material there too.
And then what happens if you are the founder of a business and you find that you align yourself more readily to the integrator rather than the visionary?
That's fine. I think identifying that, and then the roles and responsibilities along with that. And every company doesn't have to have a visionary. So I believe that every company has to have an integrator. There has to be somebody who's running things day to day. There has to be somebody who's making decisions and holding the leadership team accountable. So the integrator has to exist, whether that's filled by the owner or visionary and integrator holding that same seat. But every company doesn't have to have a visionary. So a company can exist without a visionary and just have an integrator.
Got it. Understood. Okay, so now answer the question. What's the magic of EOS?
The magic of EOS, I believe, is the simplicity. So EOS is simple. There's nothing new in EOS. I mean, EOS has been around for 15 years, but you're talking. You mentioned it earlier that getting everybody aligned on vision and knowing where we're going long term, and getting everybody rowing in the same direction, and setting annual goals and setting quarterly goals, and accountability and discipline. Those things those are around in other models as well. So there's nothing new. I think EOS does a really good job of making it all simple. So it's a 2-page business plan. So it's the vision traction organizer in EOS. It's an overly simplified business plan that's 2 pages that answers 8 questions. So it's not a lengthy 30, 40-page business plan that's overly complex and cumbersome. It's a 2-page business plan. And to hold people accountable, you have a weekly level 10 meeting and an increasing communication with the leadership team. So you have a very simple agenda that you follow with a level 10 meeting every week. So really the magic in EOS, I think, is the simplicity in the system and the tools.
So it's not rocket science. It's just a simple tool to encourage execution.
It's a complete system with a whole bunch of simple tools. So the traction book, here's my plug. The traction book is
one available on Amazon for $9.99?
It's more like $15.99, but
$15.99 available on Amazon.
Like yeah, exactly. And the traction book is written as a DIY guide. So you can pick up the traction book and read it and it'll tell you how to implement the EOS system in your business. So we think that, I mean, there's over 15,000 companies that have implemented EOS with a professional EOS implementer. And with our data, we think that there's at least 10 times that many, if not more, that have done it on their own. Wow. So there's likely hundreds of thousands of companies that are out there running EOS. So it's not a theory. It's not just a book. It's happening every single day all across the world. People are implementing EOS.
What separates those that have the discipline to follow through on the simple action steps affiliated or associated with their vision traction organizer, rocks, level 10 meeting, and those who don't?
You mean like using a professional or not using a professional?
No, more like we've got this system set up and we either do it and are successful and are kind of running on EOS, or we're not and we fall short.
Yeah, I think I have a theory that we all know what we need to be doing. It's just a matter of, are we going to do it or not? So client meeting yesterday, that's what one of the guys told me. Is like, this isn't as much fun as our first couple meetings, because the fun stuff is new stuff, and it's creating things, and it's coming up with a vision and getting everybody like this. That's the more fun stuff. The blocking and tackling of tracking data and having level 10 meetings and solving issues, it's not the sexy stuff. It's more the blocking and tackling of business and whether we're going to do it or not. So it's nothing earth shattering. It's not anything new. We know it needs to be done. Do we have the accountability and discipline to go do it?
Yeah. When we initially implemented EOS, I found that as the visionary, I had these kind of grand ideas. Some were fantastical, some were realistic, to your 19-to-1 point that you said earlier. 5% of the ideas that you bring in are reasonable and good. And there were a bunch of ideas that came to me, and I was like, let's do this. And we ran with a bunch of these ideas. They changed our business. We were successful. Then we kind of knocked through all the big ideas. We started getting into smaller ideas and little micro shifts in our business to improve things. And we did all this stuff. We did our quarterly meetings. We had our rocks. We executed them, many of them successfully. And now I don't have any more big ideas. It's just like tiny, tiny tweaks. And sometimes it feels very nuanced, the improvements that we want to make in the business. And I sometimes feel like maybe I'm not the visionary anymore. Maybe I was a visionary, or was the visionary in our business, and now I just am, I'm out of ideas. What do you make of that scenario?
I say maybe. Like I don't know. Like I think so. Maybe a couple different things here that it's talked about in the traction book, and we teach it within the EOS model. But there's you hit ceilings in a business. So you can hit ceilings as an entire business. You can hit ceilings as a department. You can hit ceilings as an individual. So what got us here is not going to get us to the next level. So your people, your department heads, the visionary, you, whatever it might be, got us to a certain level, and then maybe can't get us to the next level. So we have to get unstuck. We have to change things. We have to do things differently, which EOS is really good about, helping to implement those changes. And I would say maybe it's you, maybe not. Like I think going back to my client that I had yesterday, this is a highly successful business. They executed a high level. They've been around for a long time. They're growing. They're profitable. Just making little tweaks makes big differences. Mm. So I'm really good at bad analogies. So the bad analogy that I like to use is if you have a basketball player that you want to become an NBA star, if you start with me, like if I want to go be an NBA star, I start here, but I got to get all the way up here to be able to get to be an NBA star. But if you take somebody who's played basketball their whole life, or they've played college basketball and they're really close to the NBA, and they start here, and you just make a little bit of change, they're going to get to the NBA a lot faster than I am. So, companies that are not running at a high level, you can make huge differences with implementing a system, and that's great and that's fun and I love it. There's also a segment of the business out there, yours included, that is really a really good business and operating at a high level, and just making a little few tweaks can get you just that much better.
Yeah. The other thing two other things that I found in our business is, number one, everyone looks at the visionary as the person that has all the answers. And I've had to tell my team, people have said to me, I need you to make the final decision on this, or I need you to make this. And my response has been, I've put you guys in place in the leadership team because you are better positioned to make key decisions about the business and the direction we should take on this one particular thing, or two particular, whatever, than I am. I don't have the answer. Stop looking at me like I have the answers, because I don't. I'm on this journey with you. It's not like because I'm the quote unquote visionary of the business, or because I own the business, that I have the answers. And that was a shift that I had to vocalize at our last quarterly meeting, because people were like, I need you to make a decision. I'm like, these are tough decisions. If there's an easy one, I would make it, but there's not an easy one. It's not all that easy. And I don't have a silver bullet. I don't have the magic wand that I wave and go, this is the answer. Have you experienced that with other clients that are like, I mean, to say I'm lost is the wrong word, but it's like, this is a tough problem and I don't have a easy solution for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's perfectly normal. That's perfectly natural. I think I love what you're doing. I mean, you got to do what's best for your business. On the flip side, I see a lot of businesses that look to the leader and look to the visionary, the owner, to make all the decisions. And sometimes that works for their company. But most companies, I believe that there has to be that autonomy within the departments. There has to be autonomy in their jobs to make those decisions. I think the visionary really doesn't have anybody that reports to them. So I mean, if you look at a reporting structure within EOS, the visionary doesn't have anybody that reports to them. So the visionary really shouldn't be in the other departments, in the other people's business making decisions. The visionary should be more like the mentor and the ideas and helping other people make decisions. But I think it's important to have those departments, have the integrator, like they're the ones making the final decisions and they're the ones running the company, and they have the information, they have the knowledge, they have the day-to-day knowledge that because they're in the business and they know it better. So I think the visionary is good at the mentorship and providing information and experience share and knowledge, and then but not making the decisions.
Love that, because it leads right into my next question. I've found that I don't want to be held accountable on for quarterly rocks. I oftentimes shift focus, don't stay aligned to my quarterly rock, and I miss it, and everybody else is we hold them accountable to the rocks. What did you do? Why did you not meet it? Or did you meet it, and what was the outcome, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, ooh, did I have a rock this quarter? I was focused on a ton of other things and trying to make them better. I don't know anything about that rock, and I don't even remember being assigned to that rock. Do you find that's often the case with visionaries that are put into the into the responsibility role of managing a rock?
It's a very visionary thing to say, and I love that about you.
I wish it weren't the case.
That. Like the strict policy on rocks for visionary is that visionaries don't have rocks because they're not very good. They're not very good at staying focused. They're not very good about getting things to the finish line. I know that's kind of a stereotypical answer, but what I like about visionaries rocks, that if they do have rocks, that they're very visionary oriented. So if you're good at new ideas, or you're good at acquisitions, or you're good at going to another market, or you're like, those are visionary things, then your rock should be around those. So that's
how I started getting rocks in the first place. Because it was like execute an acquisition, or figure out the go-to market strategy for this next market or whatever else. And all of a sudden, when we're done with that, or when we haven't found any opportunities that are worthwhile, that's like, oh, Matt, you should take this rock, which is much smaller and more nuanced and whatever. I'm like, oh, that's a bad one for me.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think your rock should be more visionary oriented and only visionary type things, and what your roles and responsibilities are.
One of our core, what do you call them? Your three uniques, I think is what it's called in EOS. One of our three uniques is technology focused. And so one of the rocks that I think I was fairly successful at was identifying 3 additional ways to implement technology in the business. And we did, we went out and found a technology partner to help us develop some like integrate some code and some bots and do other things that were pretty helpful.
How involved were you in the execution and then the follow through and all of that, though?
No, so
more ideas, and
it was more ideas like, this is what I think we can solve with technology, and this is the company that I think can help us solve it. And then it went to Robert and Heather on our team were awesome about like the actual details of making sure that it worked correctly. And then they'd come back to me and say, oh, we have this problem. And I would say, yeah, but it needs to work like this, this, and this, because if it doesn't, then this problem is, so figure out how to make that work. And they would go back and do it. And that was very effective. And we found this great technology partner to help us, automate a lot of the stuff that we wanted to. And one example is that, when we get a work order in, we have a rule that we will not spend any more than $300 without getting prior written approval. Well, oftentimes owners want to be alerted of every work order that goes onto a property or that is associated with their property. And it's just human beings are bad about sending those things out, those PDFs of the work orders out. It would happen late at night and they would forget, or they would get a call from a tenant and they would put it in themselves and they wouldn't send one of the admin people, they wouldn't send them a notice saying, hey, can you trigger these notices to the owner so they're aware of what's going on? And we want the owners to know about that stuff, because if the owner says, hey, the fourth burner on that stove has never worked and I don't care if it doesn't work and the tenant needs to live with it, I'm not going to buy a new stove as a result of their complaining. We want to know that. And we want to say, cool, we can push back on the tenant. But if they didn't get that notice, then they never would have been able to push back. So now we have a bot that crawls all assigned and scheduled work orders and sends it to the owner and says, we want you to be aware that this is happening. If you feel like it shouldn't be fixed, let us know. So that was a really good thing. Let's talk about what's top of mind. What's top of mind in your business and your growth as a business owner? What's top of mind for the businesses that you're serving, that you're working with? What are they finding in this current economic environment?
I think one of the things that stands out is everybody's talking about, economy, and everybody's talking about inflation and interest rates and all of those things. But the really good companies out there, it doesn't negatively impact. So they're finding opportunities, they're finding ways around it. They're not getting too bogged down into that negative. They're concentrating on what the positive can be out of all this. I think that's one thing that's top of mind for everybody, that there are all these things out there, but we can't let that bring us down where there are opportunities in the down market. So I think that's one thing, and I've really realized over the last few years that the really good companies plan further in the future. So it's October right now, but if you're planning right now for next year, you can have some impact. But the great companies started planning for next year in March or June. Like, what are the building blocks? What can we set up now that's going to have a big impact 9 months or 12 months from now? Not just concentrating on how can we get revenue in the door in the next 90 days. Sometimes that's the most important thing you're doing. Other times, the revenue is a byproduct of doing things the right way. So how can we set up the building blocks, grow internally, and set things up for future growth? So I've really seen that the last few years, that the really great companies plan further ahead. They're not just looking at 30, 60, 90 days.
And that's interesting. What's an example of something that a company would do to plan 9 months ahead to, promote their growth or build into their next year's plan?
So maybe potential acquisitions or potential opportunities or potential new markets, new products. So as the company yesterday I was talking about, they're talking about adding a new line of business that is probably not going to get fully off the ground until 2025, but they're laying those planting those seeds down and laying the framework to make it happen. It's not done last minute. It's not done the procrastination model. It's really laying that framework now in order to make us successful then, because when it has to be done, it's not going to be as good a work if they've already been working on it for the last year. So that business is not going to take off till 2025 for their projections.
Interesting.
But
so they're
starting now
in advance. Yeah. Interesting.
And then there's plenty of time to pivot too. So it's like, let's plan for that, but then know that if that doesn't work, then we can do something else with this building, with this opportunity. So
yeah. Do you go to conferences of other EOS implementers? Do you listen to podcasts of EOS implementers? What do you do to expand your horizons and make sure you're serving clients to the best of your abilities?
Yes, we practice what we preach in the EOS community. So EOS implementers get together for our quarterly meetings. So we get together on a quarterly basis for implementer quarterly meetings, and then I'm a nerd when it comes to team coaching and professional development. So I do a lot of team coaching, professional development certifications on that side. So I didn't even know that existed before I got into it a few years ago. Like, I didn't know there were team coaching certifications, and team coaching is different than individual coaching, and just the areas of growth and development that you could do within that model is fascinating. So I love learning, love professional development, and love honing skills.
So is that something that you do? You do team coaching to ensure that teams are working effectively together?
So essentially that's what I do. So you talk about EOS, and you talk about EOS implementation, and teaching EOS is a part of that. Like, I know EOS, I know the model, I know the system, I know the tools, and that's part of what we do. And I love that part. But really, when you're in a room with, a team, yesterday's team's a big team. That was 9 people. Last week's team was 5 people. And you're talking about, team coaching. That's the other part of it. So you have to facilitate meetings and facilitate, the day, and then you have to coach individuals. So, that team of 5 people is different than a team of 9 people. And when you add a person to that team, so, really EOS is what I do and what I teach. But then when you get people in the room and, these teams are working together and getting more out of them than get out of themselves, is essentially what an EOS implementer does. So it's all team coaching.
Yeah. Final question, as
Yeah.
for somebody that is on the fence between using an EOS implementation coach or an implementer and just reading the book, what do you say to those people in helping them make a decision?
Well, I'm a terrible salesperson, so I will not tell them to use an EOS implementer. What I would tell them is just go start. I think that's the easiest way to see if you can do it on your own. Go start. Go start working on your core values, and go start working on setting rocks and annual goals and meeting with your leadership team every week with a level 10 meeting. It's all outlined in the traction book. Go start. Like, even if you only do one of those things, you're going to get better and you're going to make progress. Maybe it's not going to be as fast as working with a professional, but you will make progress. So I tell anybody, you can go do it on your own, go try. And then if you need help, I can help you. So when you get stuck, I can help you. So I think one of my clients was introducing me to somebody else the other day, and it was, I didn't ask for this introduction, but he put it perfectly. He said that we could have done what we're doing, and it would take us 10 years to get there. But hiring a professional and getting help and using Nate, it took us 5 years to get there. So it's not, you can do all of this. It's a matter of efficiency and how disciplined you're going to be in doing it. And like you said, hiring a professional to do it. That if you go do it 4 or 5 times a year with your team, you have 40 or 50 years of experience that you need to gain before you get to my level of knowing the material. So it's whether somebody does it all day every day or not. Same thing with property management. If I have rental properties and I only have a couple, I'm not going to do as good a job as somebody who manages thousands of them, right? Like, it's the same.
I think of it as like your expertise is distilling and focusing the work that we're trying to do. We can go in and we'll try to navigate core values, mission, vision, and we have tried to do this alone. We did try to do it alone, but it's like there's too much noise, too much nonsense, and your ability to cut through and go, is that something, and you circle it on the board, is this something that we really need to focus on right now? Something that actually helped you get here? Is this a core value of your business that helped you get to this point, up to this point? Or is this something that's ancillary and is better left for another day? And that's the kind of distillation that you do and the focus that you bring to a conversation to make sure that we don't run off on a bunch of tangents and follow a bunch of run down a bunch of rabbit holes that are totally unnecessary, but rather stay kind of on mission. And so what would take us 4 days of in office, coffee jugs in hand and sitting there with a whiteboard gets done in 4 or 5 hours because we've got you to kind of guide us to the right spot and distill away or separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak.
Yeah,
That's how I experienced it.
I agree. I have a biased opinion, but I agree with that assessment. I had a client who was doing it on their own as well, and they were scheduling 2 days for every quarterly meeting, and they were spending 2 days doing their quarterly meetings. And then after I got involved, took a couple quarters to get them on track, but distilling it down to 1 day instead of 2 days. And so when you have a team of 8 people and you can save 4 or 5 days a year for a leadership team that's operating at a high level, like that's big time.
Indeed. Nate Brim is passionate about helping others live their ideal lives. He's a business owner, entrepreneur, team coach, and EOS implementer, which is what we discussed here today. Nate graduated from OU with a bachelor's of business information and management information systems. That's a mouthful. And he's got a master's in accounting that he doesn't use, much like my dad. Nate's a father to 2, husband to 1. Nate, how do people reach you if they want to find out more about EOS implementing services or anything else about you?
You can call, you can text, you can email. Email's nate.brim@eosworldwide.com. You want me to give my phone number too?
You're welcome to if you want.
918
cell phone, text.
918-289-1937. So happy to chat. I love EOS. I'd love to be a resource, give you knowledge, anything you need, not trying to sell you anything. So
love it. Nate, thank you for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Same Day Podcast. Tune in to a new show each week and be sure to subscribe to get future episodes.